The Hikaru and Magnus match has officially ended, but the recaps will continue. Today we started PogChamps 2. If you don't know what PogChamps 1 is, and you obviously don't know what PogChamps 2 is, you should check it out. There's going to be links in the description below. Basically a tournament of a bunch of different video game and variety personalities who are playing a chess tournament knockout style on Twitch primarily. So today featured 6 players in their brackets. Scissors, who streams Fortnite and all sorts of other games, as well as Gripex, who is touted as the top seed, and he primarily plays League of Legends. It's 2-game mini-match. Gripex had the white pieces. Both players are rated about 1200. E4, E5, and a Berlin? I thought we abandoned this opening from Magnus Hikaru, but no. Well, a Berlin, but, you know, quickly transforming into... I don't know what this is, but I will tell you that Jack Sizz, aka Scissors, playing a very nice, aggressive, kind of method here, where if you take, life is good. You're defended, kind of common Ru Lopez idea. But Gripex here plays d4. Now, this is just a mistake. It's a mistake because it's much better here for you to castle kingside and just get, calm development as well as just taking in the center and being okay. We get d4, big trades occur in the center. Knight d5, not the best move. You should go after this pawn because the knight is protecting the pawn. This knight is also facing it. So something like knight g4 or knight d7 to then pick this pawn up, and he blunders a pawn. Here, Scissors then proceeds to jump in with the knight. Now, it would have been a lot better for him to just keep developing his pieces. Instead, he plays this, looking at the g2 pawn and forgetting that one move... Oh, well, now one move... The knight is under attack. I mean, he didn't necessarily have to take, but he takes h6, and now white should basically just begin to bring in rook, castle, etc., look for trades, and that would be the way to win this position. Scissors here begins to fight back, activating his pieces, plays bishop d3, fantastic move, getting out of danger, defended by the rook, hits the rook on f1. We get rook e1, and now c4. Uh-oh, the bishop on b3 is trapped. Now, in this position, the best thing for white would be not to give back the bishop, but actually sacrifice the rook for the bishop. And then if you get rook takes, then obviously the bishop is free. And if you get pawn takes, you just play rook d1, or even something like e6, because it's better to have 2 bishops for the rook. In this case, bishop and knight, but you have very, very active piece play. But he does just sacrifice back, and the players got to an endgame which got very messy. Something like this, and around this point, despite white having a full pawn advantage, white is sort of playing with no plan. White just kind of rotating pieces around, but here begins to play extremely well and brings his knight back, consolidates. Notice how almost all of white's pieces are on dark squares, and so the light squared bishop, despite existing, puts no real pressure on the white position. Now, what you should do here, if you're playing with the white pieces, is go for the weaknesses. So a6 is a big weakness. You should also balance that with bringing in your king and advancing your pawns in an advantageous way where you keep them all together. None of that happens. White launches f5, which is not a bad move, but then gets his pieces a little bit awkwardly tied together. Now here there was a move that was basically winning, not on the spot because of various tricks, rook g3. And that would have forced the king to the h-file. If you go h5, you almost get mated. King h7, there's knight takes f7 winning. Instead, Gripex, getting low on time, plays g4, allows a brilliant move here from Scissors, f6, and you cannot take because of the pin, and all of the defense of the position slowly begins to crumble. So we have h5, king g5, and, well, the pawn gets taken, and it was here, if we look very closely, that's not a pawn that you should be taking, low time situation, that was just a rook. So we get pawn takes e5, knight f7, king comes closer. Rook d3, bishop c4, rook d2, and a free pawn. Now black is up 2 pawns, so what does black do? He blunders one of them back. What does white do? He doesn't take it. Rook e8, and now it's time to run the e-pawn. That is what you should be doing. That is where your strength is. So you play e4, e3, bring in the king, and the second the opponent gives you the opportunity to take the rook, that is exactly what you do. Take the rook, and you bring in the king. It is unstoppable promotion here between rook f8 and e2. In this position, Grapex resigned game number 1, and it is a best of 2. So in the next game, he has to play with the black pieces, and he has to win the game. So Scissors plays e4, e5, knight c3, knight f6, a3, b6. Hold on. We need to have a talk with both of these PogChamps players, because these are not standard opening moves. A3 is not super necessary, not necessarily. You got to bring out these pieces a little bit faster, in my opinion. Otherwise, the position is just going to be very difficult to play. Another mistake Scissors played a little bit early on was just playing this knight out. There's no need to bring this knight into the fight when you haven't finished developing your bishop or your knight. So it would have been better for him not to play 3 knight moves, because now he played 3 knight moves and he doesn't have a knight anymore. And if you miss that this is under attack and you want to, slide it back, you get mated. He didn't get mated, but instead got himself into a slightly worse position with the white pieces. And then had to stabilize. Still, he is better. He does have, pretty good grasp on the position, but black plays a great move, c5, locking in the territory. Opposite colored bishops favor the player who is more active and who is attacking. In this case, the bishop on b2 is hardly an attacking piece. The bishop on b7 is a beast. But this was not where the drama stopped. Scissors brought in his queen and flew into d7, traded queens, and began his own little attack. Then he traded off the central pawn. Here, Gripex 100% should have played the move d3. Lesson for all of you. d3 here is, optically speaking, just crushing. Bishop backs up, protecting this pawn. You should not take. Once you take, all your advantage is gone, and Scissors proceeds to trade and infiltrate with the rook, playing excellent style and keeps taking everything. He was so close to winning this. So close, and then he hung a rook. And then the man hung a rook, and that was it. f4, rook e3, king f2, rook takes, 1-1, and the players go to an immediate Armageddon match. As far as it works for standings, winning in the best of 2, you get 3 points, they get 0. If it goes to Armageddon, it's 2-1. So, pretty straightforward stuff. Scissors goes back to playing standard openings. Life is good, up a pawn, except it was at this moment that he realized he had about 20 seconds on the clock. The Armageddon wasn't much of anything. It was a great game, I would say, by both players up until this point, except one of them just didn't take his time very well. Didn't manage his time very well, I should say. And so he had 20 seconds on the clock. And what you're about to see is a player realizing that he has 20 seconds on the clock, making as many fast moves as possible, but ultimately losing on the clock. Knight g5, h6, he plays rook e1, bishop is gone, queen d7, takes, and here would have been actually his one chance. But again, he had about 7 seconds at this point. That move. And then you can play queen h5 and, rook g4, rook h4. Actually not so close. Scissors is watching our recap. Scissors in the chat. Scissors, we're YouTube recording, so say hi to YouTube. Everybody's been asking me for a recap, so we're doing this. I'm breaking the fourth wall here, going over these games. But it was just a time management problem more than anything else. The opening was good, the play was good, just a little bit better, a little bit more confident. Life is good. This next match makes me want to throw up a little bit, but that's okay. Forsen, a second time invite to PogChamps. Playing with the white pieces against Call Me Carson. I guess we gotta call him Carson. E4, C5, and the Smith-Morra Gambit. This is gangster stuff. I play it a lot in the E4 rating climb. We get the 2 pawns in the center of the board. Knights can come out. Life is good. And D6 is not so critical because here you can play something like D5. Forsen plays D5 the way he does it. He gets a nice space advantage. Neither one of these players really wants to take anything, which is a bit strange. But that's okay. Finally, he takes. He brings the rook. I mean, Scissors plays very principled chess. He's like a Russian grandmaster. So knight c5, and we get e5 and knight g4. Again, Carson, I'm not sure, has yet learned the rule that pawns can capture diagonally. I think maybe he thought that these pawns were completely frozen with that 663, but that is not the case. And here, Forsen proves it by slamming e takes d6, takes, and knight b5. Nice move hitting the queen. Queen e7. I would just bulldoze my way in. There's also a way, if you go here and something like queen d8, you can hit both these knights at the same time with which move? Correct. Queen c4, which attacks both knights at the same time. That's the only way you're going to do it. So instead, we got rook e8, b4, aggressive play, and the fork. Very nice idea from Forsen. Chop, 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 chop. Simplifies it down to the endgame. Will this knight be protected? It will. But h3, knight h6, rook e7. Nice technique here. Honestly, nice technique. Very nice technique. Rook on the 7th rank. Look at this precise move. This is such a precise move. a3 solidifies. I would have liked to see rook d7, but I don't hate knight d4. And, yeah, well, just ends up promoting a pawn. That is always the simplest way to go about it. In the second game, Forsen with the black pieces, Call Me Carson with the white pieces, plays c4. I don't know which PogChamps coach taught him to play the English, but they should be fired. So c4, e5, knight c3, you know, kind of a nice little structure here. So far, so good. Good position. Knight d5 is an interesting idea. And wow, everything gets traded. Okay, they traded all the pieces. c6. Hold on, what? See, you can't play that. What? Again, see, I just don't think anybody taught Carson that pawns can capture. Like, that, like, he just, boom, 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 fork. It was right there for the taking, but we got rook d1, trade, still doing well. Still doing well. So how did Forsen, oh, well, is that just a hanging pawn? And he sees it. And he takes that one as well. Forsen very sharp tactically. Whoa. Rook c8. No! No, the blunder came. Oh my goodness. Oh no, rook b1's just a one-move capture. Okay, he takes like, that actually also works. This actually also works because if you play rook b8, I take here. Oh, damn, and his rook's gone. Okay, well, oh, and that's gone too. All right, well, being down a rook is not going to do it. Forsen shows nice technique. Only thing Forsen has to worry about here is back rank checkmate, which does not happen. And, yeah, well, very nice. Just gets the second queen and walks the king to the other side of the board. Easy peasy, my man. Nice win for Forsen, 3 points up top. The next matchup was the marquee matchup of the evening. They saved the main event for last, as they do. By the way, Adesanya versus Costa coming up. Big hype for that. It's Hafu, aka Hafu versus David Pacman. Syndicated show, beast, almost 1 million YouTube subs. I'm almost there as well. No, I'm not. Playing with the black pieces, and Hafu plays e4, e5, and we have a Stafford Gambit. We have a Stafford Gambit, except Hafu has been preparing big time for this event, and she is well prepared. And, well, I didn't teach David. I'm just going to go on record right now. I didn't tell him to play the Stafford Gambit, but that's just me covering myself as they do in politics. H5 is some aggressive stuff, but Hafu came prepared and just built up a central pawn mass. For some reason, did not take the bishop. I think she was afraid of this, but here you just take with the bishop, and this is protected. But the problem is that these pieces are kind of clumsy. And so she plays knight d2, and the simplest thing to do here for Pacman would have been just to take this knight. Just to take the knight. And when that happens, then you just develop, you'll pick a side to castle. Don't play moves like this because they awkwardly tie your pieces together. And the bishop immediately popped out to f3. Now the only way to defend here for black would have been to play the move f5. I mean, there's, you know, f5 and bishop f5, but there's ways to add more pressure. Instead, this happened, and that doesn't quite do it because bishop takes e4, and even though you can take my queen, I can take your queen, and even though you can take my bishop, I can take your bishop, and I'm up a piece. And Hafu did very well from here. She traded a few pieces. Here she was going for a bishop trap, which I think she could have gotten. You know, obviously not quite, because here black can play b6, but whatever. She goes for a bishop trap and brings all her pieces, takes a pawn, repeats almost by accident, but doesn't, activates the piece. There's a fork, and again we see a position where somebody's up a rook, and it's smooth sailing. So the closest match of the day was definitely match one. I mean, somebody asked me earlier who I don't know if Scissors is still here, but I did get asked who I think is the dark horse, and I do think it's Scissors. I think he's exceptionally talented at the game of chess for somebody who doesn't, I mean, you know, play that much. Seeing his skill level today was incredible. Almost winning and upsetting the top seed. Hafu cleaned this up very easily. And this next game, I'm just going to preface with the fact that this game hurt my soul. This game truly hurt my soul because a Titan was almost slain 2 times on day 1. And it didn't happen. And it didn't happen. That shit just didn't happen. And this is why it didn't happen. David Pacman busting out the exchange French. Okay, fine. Plays the exchange French. I didn't teach him that either, but it's fine. Now here, a very instructive moment. How do we prevent black from castling? Very good. The move rook to e1. Levy, how does that prevent the opponent from castling? You're going to take the bishop. Yeah, but Levy, what if they just play bishop e6? Oh, that's great. Then this is my new target. Boom. But Levy, what if they just play this? Okay, knight c3. But Levy, what if I just take? Okay, I take back. Yeah, but Levy, now I can castle. No, you can't. Because I'm going to get this bishop out of here. I'm going to play d5. And you're going to take and I'm going to take. Yeah, but Levy, then I pin you and I checkmate you. No, you're hallucinating. That's, no. I take, no. So, rook e1 had to be played, and this is something you should pick up on before your opponent has castled, is that there are certain moves to prevent them from getting their king to safety early on. I predicted that David would have just played knight c3, and that's completely fine. Afu played great. I mean, she damaged his pawn structure. She damaged his pawn structure a little bit more on this side of the board, brought her queen out, and David here started playing really relaxed chess. He played queen e2, protected the pawn. Queen g6, hide the king, king f8. The idea of king f8 is to play rook e8. So he plays rook e1 and now threatens this. So she plays queen f6, which protects this square. Now here, David Pacman played the greatest move of his chess career. David Pacman played a move that I was so stunned by when I saw, I almost retired from competitive play myself. That move is bishop to c1. Bishop to c1 is such an impressive move for so many reasons. He played bishop c1 and bishop a3. Like, that is his idea. Rerouting his worst placed piece. I mean, my goodness, what a concept. That is an amazing move. I'm not being sarcastic at all. It's an amazing move. And here, knight f4 attacks this. Now, the easiest thing to do here would have been to actually stop having tunnel vision, and then you just take. And you win, because after this, you go back to this idea. But that's tough. That's tough. And, you know, check, your king is actually completely safe, because that's not a check. That's actually a protected square, and now you are threatening mate and all sorts of other things. Bishop takes f4, abandoning the tunnel vision plan, just taking, and remembering that queen e7 was your original idea, would have been winning. However, he plays bishop a3, and here, the very natural move of dipping the king to the corner is wrong, because of the stunning move queen e8. Nothing against Hafu, but I was really hoping a game would end like this. And if takes, knight f8, and it's mate. And if you just block, then I take the rook. And there's just no mate. I mean, you're just not fast enough here, because I'm threatening mate myself. That would have been incredible. But Hafu found the only move, c5. And you can't take with the bishop, because then knight takes, and two things are hanging. That's the problem, and you can't take with the pawn. So then we got queen e4, we got knight g6. We got queen takes b7, queen d8, and queen e4 back, and a simplification from David and taking a pawn, up 2 pawns. So now, David begins to bring his pawn and his bishops forward. He brings his bishop, and Hafu hung a knight! Hafu hung a knight going backwards! Both players at this point trending at about 1 minute with 5-second bonus time. Bishop e5, f6, bishop f4, and David found a way to promote, giving it back the piece. Let's get these pawns. That's also a good plan. King c6, bishop e7, not realizing that he can just take. You should take, bring your king, promote a pawn. Instead, he got into a kind of panic mode here, but still did the right thing, won the pawn on that side of the board, and here, it all fell apart. He should have been patient. He should have realized that this is all stranded on that side of the board, and you just bring your king. You also can wait for both of these squares to be, one of them at least to be available, and then you at least get this pawn to a7, and there is a way to promote there. But David rushed. In the low time situation, he pushed, and then he pushed, and then he lost the house. However, he's still winning because his king is so much more active, and he's winning with a pawn breakthrough. Because if you take, then boom, 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 boom. If you don't take, you push, then boom, boom, boom. It's king versus pawns, and there's ways to poke holes, right? if you don't go king g3, then you aren't going to be able to win. He brought his king forward. Here he played h3, and Hafu should have shut it down by playing h4. This would have been the only way to hold it. I think you can also play f4. But basically, you have to shut it down. Shut it down completely. Just shut it down. Excuse me, shut it down, and that's it. Instead, we had king c4, h4, so still win in hand, g4, take it and outflank. And this is where I lost my mind watching the game, because I was like, oh my gosh, it's actually happening. He's going to play king f4, king g5. But then he was like, oh no, she's going to get my pawn. Just count it. King g5, king e2, king takes, king takes, king takes, and your pawn goes. But in low time, this is so hard. So he decides to throw an f3, and it's a draw again. Because if takes, you're going to win this pawn, but this is a draw. This is just a draw. Because, you know, you can't win this. As long as the king gets to the corner before you, or, you know, you always shield the king and don't let the pawn advance, this is a draw. But then tragedy struck. Hafu played king e2, single-handedly finding the only way to throw the game. And David played king g3. And pawn takes f3, and the pawn promoted. And Hafu found a way to bring the king and the queen, and David resigned. Oh my goodness. Obviously, nerves. 30,000 plus watching. Stadiums are probably being sold out around the world. But this was such a high-octane matchup. Hafu claims both games and takes a 3-point lead over the rest of the score group. But what a day. What a first day of PogChamps. I mean, obviously, this is not quite like watching Magnus and Hikaru. In many ways, it's a lot more fun because you get to see blunders. You get to see people at the same level as you, slightly lower than you, slightly higher than you, a lot higher, lot lower. But I'm going to try to have a little bit of fun with these games and provide instructional moments beyond, you know, the humor and the jokes. PogChamps is on every day. So from now until September, you can catch all the live streams and the schedule somewhere on the chess.com website. I'll probably put it in the description. And that's pretty much all for now. I'll see you in the next one.